I'm going to go ahead and get into the Word tonight. This is a message that I actually gave a few months back. But for some reason, God has just been laying it on my heart for tonight. So here's how we're going to start tonight. I just want us to take a few minutes and think about our lives in this world. Now, I want you to especially think about one thing, just one problem in your life. Just one. Now, if you have just one, it may be a problem at work, may be a problem at home, may be a problem at church, may be a problem with your car. And you know, to some people, that's not a very big problem. But for others, it can be a very big problem. They may not know how to work on it. And if they don't know how to work on it and they have to pay somebody else, that just makes the problem even worse. Or it may be some bad news that you just received from a doctor. But I want you to think about that one problem. And if you've thought about it and you've got that one problem, raise your hand. Because see, we live in this world. There's a few people out there that don't have problems. But most of us do. And if you don't have a problem, you're blessed. I just want to take a few minutes for us to think about that problem. Remember that one problem that you've thought about, because here in a little bit we're going to get back to it. We're going to go tonight to Habakkuk 3:17. If you would, please stand for the reading of the Word. Though the fig tree may not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, though the labor of the olive may fall, and the field yield no food, though the flock may be cut off of the fold, and there be no herd in the stables. You may be reseated. Pastor, would you pray over this message?
Father, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to hear your word tonight. Father, I pray as my brother hides behind your cross, Lord, that you will anoint our ears and hearts, Lord, to receive what you have for us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I want to read that again. Though the fig tree may not blossom, nor fruit be on the vine, though the labor of the olive may fall, and the fields yield no food, though the flock may be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stables. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a load of problems to me. Have you ever put in a lot of time and effort into planning something, caring for it day in and day out, just to have it wither up and dry and not getting anything from it? I know I have. You know, when we bought our land where we live at now, a little over 12 years ago, when we moved out there, I finally had a place for a garden. Now, my grandpa was a farmer. He had 80 acres in Poteau. And my dad used to tell me stories of how they farmed 75 of that with horses. His okra patch was 5 acres. They farmed for the frozen food out of Fort Smith. So I always wanted me a garden. Now, our house, it had a nice sunroom in it and stuff, and I thought, man, I got it made. I got a head start on some people. You know, so my wife goes out, buys me a tiller. I get the ground all tore up, man. I'm spending days out there tilling this ground up, going to have it ready for my plants. I went and bought the little planters, had them all in the sunroom. And by the time I went out to plant them, I had beautiful plants. I raised these things from seeds. I mean, I went all out. I had corn stalks that tall that I'm going out to plant. But I didn't know what I was doing. Took them out. I didn't know you had to take them out a little bit at a time. Let them get used to being outside. I took them out and I planted them right in the ground. It shocked everything I had. Everything the next day was dead, laying on the ground. I had spent all that time for nothing. I had to start all over again. You know, Sister Sandra, I can't tell you how many cherry trees she has bought to go on her land off up there. I know of at least 5. She does not have not one living cherry tree on her property. Every one, there was 3 planted before I even started up there. And I know we've planted more since then. And it's not like we didn't put them all in the same place. They have been put on different spots of this property. But for some reason, that property grows apple trees, peach trees, plum trees, pecan trees. But cherries just will not make it there. I don't know if it's something to do with the ground or nothing. But when you're given $100, $150 for a tree, just to watch that thing die, that hurts. And though the flocks may be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stables. How many of us has ever raised livestock? No, Brother Travis has. I learned a few things from Brother Travis. You can have a nice barn, the nicest barn ever built. Animals are stupid. And it depends on the animal on how stupid they are. You take birds, if you scare them, if you got them in a house, if you raise chickens and you scare them chickens, or turkeys, either one, they will just bundle up and smother one another. They won't separate. They'll sit right there till they die. But you can have the nicest barn ever built. And if you don't lock cows and stuff up in them, they'll be standing out in the middle of the pasture freezing in a snowstorm. They're used to being outside. They don't know when to go in out of the bad weather and stuff. Well, I was talking about I learned from Brother Travis. Trevor used to tell me all the time when he had goats that Brother Travis said a goat is an animal looking for a place to die. I never believed that was true. I even told Trevor, I said, we had goats when I was a kid. I was a kid. I did not realize how dumb a goat is. I did not realize how much trouble a goat is until Sister Sandra bought like 40 of them. There's been many a mornings when I would get there, first thing I do is I go out and check the animals for Brother Larry. And there's been many a mornings when I go out and check the animals and I come back in, me and Larry have a cup of coffee. He goes, how's the animals? Oh, they're fine. Are they good? Yeah, they're good. I checked all of them. And I would go out there and I would count every goat and check every goat. We would go out there an hour later and there would be one of them dead. And he goes, I thought you checked the animals. I said, dude, that thing was walking around 30 minutes ago. It got to the point where whenever I would go out there, I would take pictures and videos of these goats walking around. Because I kid you not, almost on a daily basis, them things were dropping like flies. I can remember my brother, whenever I was a kid, I was about 10 years old, he bought a milk cow on our farm out in Rock Island. Paid $550 for this milk cow that was pregnant. Now, back in the early 80s, $550 was a pretty good chunk of change. One day, it just laid down trying to give birth and died. $550 gone. Animals, they're a good investment, but they're a tough investment. All right, Brother Travis? See, sometimes these things happen in our lives for no apparent reason. It just happens. And we always have to figure it out, don't we? That's our human nature. We want to know the reason why. So what's the first thing we say? I don't know about you, but one of the first things I usually say is, well, apparently God wanted me to go through this. He's got a lesson He's teaching me. He's trying to teach me a lesson to make me a better person. See, that's not right. I was watching a show a while back, and something happened in the show. I don't even really remember what happened. That's how close I was watching this show. But I remember at the end of the show, this man is sitting in the back of a church, a big church, and he's talking to God. And this man had had problems. You know, when he was like 9 years old, his mom had passed away. And a month or so later, his dad sent him off to boarding school. So he had had a rough life. He had questions. He wanted to know why. But one of his friends died. And he was in there asking God why. And by the end of it, he just stands up. And he says, I can't do this. I just can't do this. And he turns and walks off. Do we know that this is one of the biggest lies of the enemy? That our Father that is in heaven, that loves us, is up there tugging on strings like a puppet master, pulling us this way and that way. In John 3:16, 17, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God did not send His Son into this world to condemn the world, but that the world through Him might be saved. I mean, why would God send His Son to die for you and me if He is just going to mess with us later? Makes no sense. The Word also tells us that a family that's divided cannot stand. It will fall. He wouldn't do that. In 1 Corinthians 14:33, it tells us, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. See, my God makes peace, not problems. It tells us in His Word. How many of us know that wherever we go in this world, that God is with us? Man. How many of us know that wherever we go in this world, the devil is also there too? See, the devil is the one that likes to destroy things and play with our lives, not God. How many of us remember the old cartoons? And it's so funny how mainstream now tries to protect the kids and keep them away from stuff they claim, but they have them playing video games that we would have never thought about playing. But then you sit and watch some of the old cartoons and Bugs Bunny's running around with shotguns shooting people and wearing dresses and makeup, and you're thinking, what did I watch when I was a kid? But I remember my favorite one growing up was Donald Duck. My wife even bought me a Donald Duck shirt when we went to Disney World 15 years ago. Donald Duck would lose his mind at the drop of a hat. Just flip out and go crazy. That probably says a lot about me. That was my favorite one. But I can remember the old cartoons when he would be sitting there trying to be good at times, and he would have a little angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. You know, a little angel would have the wings and the halo. A little devil would have the pitchfork. And he was being pulled in both directions. How many of us knows that it is the devil that causes problems in our lives? And see, he doesn't discriminate. He don't care. He don't care if you're young. He don't care if you're old. He doesn't care if you're male. He doesn't care if you're female. He doesn't care if you're black. He doesn't care if you're white. If you're red, yellow, or green, he don't care. And if you try to change your identity, it ain't going to work because he still don't care. In John 10:10, Jesus says, the thief comes not except to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and they may have it more abundantly. See, this world doesn't help. The first time that I wrote this out, it was on my tablet. And as I would say God, it would spell out God, but it would put a little G. My God don't come with a little G. When it would spell the devil, it would spell it with a big D. I'm not giving him no praise at all. I would have to go in and change it every time. And every time I went in and changed it. I'm not leaving that up for debate. It's not up for discussion. He doesn't get none of my praise and God gets all of it. And that's the thing of it is, our universe as we know it, our world is full of so many signs that we don't even understand anymore. You know, I was watching a deal this past week, and it was talking about 6 signs that people do all the time, that they're actually welcoming or wear all the time or do, that is inviting demons into their presence. One was the peace sign of the 70s. The upside down peace sign beckons demons. When you see, and I don't like them, but I'm not saying this because of this. This is just one of them that I remember. Whenever you see them doing hook 'em horns, the horns up, that's invoking demons and Satan. There is signs all around us that we let into our lives that we don't even realize a lot of times that are bad. How many of us knows that when we feed and water our roses, that the weeds are enjoying and taking part of that as well? You know, this past summer, one of the things me and Ray did is we went and got 4 rose bushes. We cleaned out a flower bed right there by our house, and we went and bought rose bushes. My grandpa loved rose bushes. I always wanted rose bushes, and we went and bought them. And I have worked hard trying to keep these things clean of grass and stuff. But when we feed those things nutrients and water and stuff, there's going to be weeds right there that's going to be taking part of it. And as long as we leave them in there, it's just going to get worse. It's just like the sin in our lives. If we don't get it out of our lives, it's just going to grow. And it's going to get more entangled in our lives. And it's going to get harder to get out. If we don't start clipping stuff out of our lives, sooner or later, what does weeds do? They take over. And it doesn't take them long. The first thing we have to do is get the devil out of our lives. Just dig him up and throw him away. Don't give him the opportunity to grab roots and dig in. Second thing we need to do is let him is not to let him entangle himself in our lives. And the most important thing is not let him steal our nutrients. We can't let him think he's winning. And we can't blame God for things that he didn't do. Because if we allow him to, he will, and let's be honest. That's the only way that he can, is if we let him. We have to let him. He can't do it without us. Because he won't stop just with you. Because once he's got you entangled, what's he going to do? He's going to start going for your family. Or he may start with your family. Or your church family. And sooner or later, he's just going to keep going until he has everybody. There's a lot of us that need to get the weeds out of our lives. Here's what I want to leave you with tonight. Remember that one thing, that one problem you thought about earlier. Whatever that one problem is, do you realize God did not cause it? God does not cause the problems in our lives. God never intended for us to live like this. He never intended for us to have problems. But He knew we would mess things up, so He made a way out for us. And that way is Jesus Christ. He's the only way. I don't care what anybody else tells you. You know, I worked with a guy one time, and he said, well, you know, Fred, he said, everybody believes in God. He said, you know, and this was back when the Gulf War and stuff was going on. He said, even the guys over there, the Muslims, they believe in God. And I said, they don't believe in my God. He said, but they believe in God. And I said, it's not the same. And he goes, well, what's the difference? And I said, well, first off, their God expects me to send my son to die for him. I said, my God sent his son to die for me. There's a big difference there when you're a daddy and you've got one son. I can't begin to imagine what God was going through or what all he was thinking whenever he sent Jesus. We have a choice in life to either dwell on our problems and make them bigger, or trust in the Lord that He is bigger than our problems. In Habakkuk 3:18 and 19 it says, Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will joy in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength. He will make my feet like deer's feet. Has anybody ever seen a deer running through the woods? It's a beautiful sight unless you're after it. And it's running away from you, waving that tail. They don't let nothing get in their way. There's not a creek too wide. There's not a fence too high. I've seen them walk up to a 6-foot fence, stand there flat-footed, look up at it, and jump right over it. They don't let nothing stand in their way. The rest of 19 says, and He will make me walk on my high hill. See, no matter what I may go through, I will trust in the Lord and know that God is not the cause of my problem. If anything, He's going to be the solution to my problem. If we would, let's stand tonight. If you have any special needs or special prayers, please come up. Me and the pastor